morning. Thank you so much for staying tuned to Citizen TV on this 19th day of September 2023. My name is Sam Gituko and I want to introduce the panelists here in studio. We have Geoffrey Wandeto, who is the Member of Parliament for Tetu constituency in Nyeri County. Good morning.
Good morning, Sam. Good morning, viewers.
Great. Senator Richard Onyonka, Senator from Kisii County. Good morning.
Good morning, Sammy.
And we have Samuel Karanja, CEO MSME Alliance of Kenya. Good morning.
Good morning, Sammy.
It's good to see all of you here. And we want to talk about some different matters that have to do with unemployment, the questions of taxation, but also the cost of living, given what is going on with the prices of fuel. If you look at the front page of the Standard, you'll see that very disturbing image of desperate Kenyans turning up to ask for a job with the Kenya Defence Forces. 7,000 of them is the number that has been put, an estimate figure, but the positions available from that recruitment stand were 350. How do you explain that? So this is becoming a job opportunity, not necessarily to defend the country, but majority of those young people were saying they're from the National Youth Service, some of them saying that what let them down is that their clearance or their dispatch letters say good, not very good. Others saying that their grades were below what was required for them to be recruited to the KDF. And we'll be listening to some of the voices of Kenyans that were there and looking at the images. Let me begin with you, Samuel, because when you look at this, but then reflect on the sector that you're in, what would you say has been the status of employment or unemployment, and what are these circumstances that could be leading to this bulge of the youthful population that are this many desperate and looking for any opportunity?
Thank you, Sammy, and thank you, viewers. Well, when you look at the micro, small, medium enterprise, that sector employs 14 million people. And the government of the day rode in that narrative of making sure that SMEs are going to be taken care of, having 98% of all the businesses in this country in that sector, in that area. So 98% of all the businesses are in SME sector. 2% only are in the corporate. So the government rode on that narrative, and it's in the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, what I'm talking about. And so the effort that the government is supposed to make is to make sure that that sector thrives. And how does that sector thrive? There are different challenges which we encounter. First and foremost is financing. You remember we had the Kibaki regime, and when Kibaki regime came in, we were from a 24-year regime that was really pressing the SMEs. But people thrived nevertheless because of the resilience of that sector. Now, when you look at the Kibaki regime, what they did, they made sure that every business person is empowered. We are able to get loans, we are able to get financing from different government institutions, financial institutions supported by the government, and different policies were made for that sector to thrive. And that is why at that particular regime, that's when you saw the Nyamakima thrive, the Kirinyaga Road thrive, the Gikomba thrive. Now, coming now to this regime, with the narrative that they rode in to come to power, we thought that they are going to have innovative and inventive ways to make sure that we remain afloat. Coming from COVID all the way. And you remember, Sam, we had issues, especially 2016, 2017, 2018, where then the former president, Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, was able to go and so the deputy president, to remove 1,000 containers belonging to SMEs, which were stuck in the port. Because now SMEs, we are a more consuming nation. So we import more than we produce. And so we had about 1,000 containers. And so what happened is the government stepped in and there was an amnesty which made now that economy thrive and, just hold people who are being auctioned, and some even died because of stress. When you look at now the newspaper today in the morning, you're seeing a desperateness where the government rode on a narrative of helping SMEs. All these people should not even appear to be employed, but there should be a conducive economic ecosystem in that space of SMEs whereby people can be able to employ themselves. We are the largest employers. And so the government must be able to make sure, this sector being the largest employers, they are supposed to come up with policies, they're supposed to come up with incentives to help micro, small, medium enterprises. But as it were, when they came to power, they forgot that.
Okay, and I'll get to you to hear what sort of policies have come in so far and what your assessment would be. Maybe we can listen to the Kenyans that showed up in Embakasi for this recruitment on what they had to say as they waited for their chance.
Tatupati kazi, tukikuja recruitment, atuchukuliu.
Recruitment ilikuwa free and fair. Kitu naweza taka kusema that hii ni mara yangu ya 6 kujaribu, but kitu imenitoa ni very good. Yangu ni good, but walikuwa nataka very good.
Hii ni mara ya 3 sasa kujaribu. Nimejaribu KDF mara 3, nimejaribu polisi, nimejaribu ya forest, lakini yote imenikataa.
Na discharge yangu ijaandikwa very good, imeandikwa good. Na grade niko na D plain. Yes.
Actually, it has frustrated me. Sababu it was not my expectation according to the Gazette and according to the advertisement, because they had said that they want from D+ and above, D plain and above. And here, as one of all those who attended, I have C- and a diploma in supply chain management from Sigalagala National Polytechnic. But apart from all those, I've not been considered.
These are just representative voices of what was going on yesterday, but it is not the only problem. Honorable Wandeto, what would be your comment in as far as this problem of unemployment that we continue to have? I mean, people are spending years looking for a job, any opportunity, and so much is getting lost in skill and manpower.
Yes, Sam, I agree with you. I think perhaps the biggest challenge that we face in this country is youth unemployment. Mm-hmm. And it is so serious because every year we are producing these hundreds of thousands of graduates from our universities, from our tertiary institutions, from our TVETs. But as an economy, we've not been able to create jobs at the same pace at which we produce these graduates. Mm. And it is sad because in very, very many other countries, a lot of youths are actually recruited, from universities. So you hardly find any youth finishing university and then still looking for a job. Now, what we need to do, I think as a country, there are several steps that we can take. Some of them are ongoing. One, we have to focus on projects and programs that basically create some mass employment for our youths. And I think this is one of the wisdom of the affordable housing project, where, as you are aware, the government intends to create up to 1 million jobs, just by way of, affordable housing program. We can extend this to other labor-intensive projects. For example, all these construction that is being mooted, whether it's construction of dams, whether it's construction of roads. As a growing economy, we have a huge opportunity to create, especially jobs, in the construction center, in the construction sector. But moving from that, we also need to see how we can support our small businesses. How can we support our small businesses to be able to create enough jobs for our people? Today, if I got the figures right, I think SMEs, employ something like 80% of the population. And how can we ensure? And by the way, Sam, the area where you can create jobs fastest is by empowering SMEs. Government jobs, you cannot create them as fast as possible. Public service jobs are formal jobs, even jobs in the corporate. You may not be able to create them as fast as possible. But by just empowering an SME, a small trader who possibly was running a shop on their own, and that shop grows 20-30%, they're able to employ one more person. And the rate at which you can create jobs in the SME sector is way, way faster. So what do we need to do to support SMEs? And I agree, to some extent with my brother here, Karanja, that there are certain policy things that we need to do to ensure that our SMEs thrive. And one of the things that SMEs require is a conducive business environment. And we've been talking about this for a long time. And I know there are a lot of steps being taken by the Kenya Kwanza government to ensure that we ease, the ease of doing business. But other than also the ease of doing business, we must also ensure that there is a good access to affordable credit by our SMEs. We do not want our SMEs to be crowded out by the banks. We want them to be able to, to access, affordable credit so that they can be able to thrive. We also need to ensure that we have policies that protect local enterprises. We have people trying to do manufacturing here. They are currently being outweighed by all these, imports coming from outside. And we are not, and I know we are in a global economy where we have to trade with other nations, but there are certain nascent industries that we can try to protect by way of government policy, tax policies, just to ensure that we have more and more of things being manufactured in this country, because every time you buy an imported item, especially one that we can manufacture locally, remember we have given that job to China, we have given that job to Turkey, we have given that job to India or whoever. So how do we also have tax policies that discourage import of things that we can do? And I saw the president talking about furniture, which is a very, very good example. Why should we be importing beds when we can make them locally? You and me, we can easily be able to start a workshop to make beds and save, and not just save foreign exchange, but also be able to create, jobs locally. So these are some of the measures that, and there are many others that, that the government can be able to do or already ongoing, just basically to support our SMEs. There has been some interventions, some like the Hustler Fund, which is also a small tool that enables that small SME, just be able to, be able to thrive. And if we can get a number of our youth from this mentality that they have to get formal employment, that they have to join the KDF, because we cannot create us enough opportunities, for a million people, for a million youths who are out there to join, KDF. Otherwise, we'll have perhaps the largest army in the world. What we need to do is to open their eyes into other opportunities, especially opportunities for self-employment. We also have very many opportunities coming up for things like online jobs. So again, these are areas that we need to channel the energies of our youth so that we have more and more youth, finding something, productive to do for themselves.
Senator, what are your thoughts, especially when you look at, those very desperate Kenyans there, in an economy that is not giving them what they need, yet the MSME sector is asking for government policies. Juanito has highlighted a few, but what is your take?
When I saw the clips last night, I was actually heartbroken. I have always been disappointed about where we are as a nation. I knew, and I've always known that we've always been having, I think, was it last week when I said that our number of unemployed youth are quite high. If today I was the president of this republic, this is where I would start by sitting down with the team that we are working with to come up with 1, 2, or 3 solutions on how fast you create interventions on this matter. All right, some of you go to the UN Development Report on interventions which can be held by a country that has got a problem. Most of the countries in Africa, and indeed this whole exercise started in Europe. There's something called the universal income approach. The universal income approach is, should we look for a social welfare system on how we can take these people and begin to look for a way on how we are going to give them some revenue, where they are now slowly going to become, just like when you talk about this thing that you call the Hustler Fund. Of course, you're going to get 500, 1,000 shillings. But we must come up with interventions on how we are going to put revenue into the pockets of these young men. Number 2, we also need to, when I was going to school, we didn't finish university until you were 24. I now understand why it is. Most of these guys you see here, they are not above the age of 21. We went through school, then you finish school, you're 21 and you're at home. I'll give you a case like in Kisii County. You'll find we have got a parent who has got 5 children. Sammy, 3 of them somehow, one maybe went to university, one finished somewhere, class 8 or Form 1, the rest are at home. You have got a family of 7 people who are stuck at home. They can't even feed themselves. This is the scenario we've got. Now, we are going to recruit people and we want to take them into Kenya Army. Look at the desperation, the pain. You would think these guys were going for a football match. And yet, in reality, this is where our country is. And I keep on pleading to our brothers in the KK Alliance, because they're the ones in government. Please think fast, very, very, very fast. These young men and women you see here are so depressed. The government must come up with solutions. Are we going to coordinate and organize for, like Bill Okero was saying, do we need to introduce stimulus packages? Yes, but the problem you have is as you're introducing stimulus package, you are then introducing taxes. So when you're trying to solve a problem by suggesting what can be done, you create a problem on this issue. Number two, Sami, for those people who are in leadership and the people who are managing our country, I hope they understand that that is what corruption does. Sami, I can tell you, if you look at the Auditor General's report, where the Auditor General is saying you're talking about 400 billion shillings, which goes into wastage. I wish and hope that my colleagues in the National Assembly and the Senate could see these clips. That is when they're taking these flights in aeroplanes. You know, my brother, let's talk the truth. Our colleagues are taking trips abroad. They don't work. They're not coming to the Senate. They are not coming to the National Assembly. We are spending 26 billion shillings a year traveling the world. Look at those boys and girls who are there in that. What could 29 billion do? These are the issues. I mean, unless we begin to critically analyze where our country is and stop this nonsense of we keep on pretending, we hope that this thing is going to go on like this and nothing will happen. No. At some point, it's going to collapse. Tell me, these people are in Nairobi. They came for recruitment. Mm-hmm. They live in this city. Soon, what is going to happen to them?
When you say your colleagues are traveling, who do you mean?
What do you mean? Sami, most of the money that is given to parliamentary, ask this guy, he's my friend.
So your colleagues?
Yes.
On the majority side?
Exactly. And no, both sides. Members of parliament have never understood the sensitivity of how we are wasting money. We are wasting money and resources. Let's be honest with it. Everybody has been saying, let's cut on our wastage. Let's come up with policies that are going to be substantively impactful to the poor people, the vulnerable. Let us make sure that we think on how we are going to reduce the cost of living. It's a reality. Out here, there are people who can't afford a single meal, including those boys and girls you saw who have gone for recruitment.
Samuel, Mheshimiwa Ndito here says that the government needs to create a conducive business environment, yes, and says that there should be affordable access to credit, but also talks about the affordable housing program. When you say that the government needs to come up with policies, what do you have in mind?
Thank you, Sami. Well, the statistics that you're talking about here, the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, that is something that is also questionable. You see, the government has MSEA, which is the Micro Small Enterprise Authority. And also, the government has also a ministry which has been designated to take care of micro, small, and medium enterprises. How many SMEs can the government narrow down to and say these are the actual SMEs in the country? We are talking about estimates. And one of the things that we were saying, because government, and it's unfortunate because government doesn't like working hard, they're supposed to do a census of all the micro, small, medium enterprises and use the already infrastructure that is already there. We have Huduma Center, and we have even MSEA's different satellite offices in different counties. Any person who needs affordable credit should register there, right? So that we can know how many SMEs, actual SMEs are there. And once you know the number of SMEs which are there, now you can be able to make policies which are informed. But ideally, the government doesn't even have data of who is doing where, and what. And we have already, in the SME sector, you already have an organized team down there. If you go to the markets right now, markets, we have the chairperson of the market, we have the secretariat of the market, right, we have the numbers of that market, we have the members of that market. We contribute money. We have our own economic ecosystem there because we have been let down by the government. We borrow from each other, right? So some of the things that we are doing, the government is ideally supposed to be doing. So the policies of being organized, because the government comes and tells us you don't have governmental structures, you are not well organized. We are organized. It's the government that is disorganized. So the policies that are there, first and foremost, when you're saying the conducive environment, the conducive environment is making sure that we are not overtaxed. and having taxed, you know, and having the cushion, being cushioned in taxes. Let me give you an example, Sami. One of us, we decided, and as Mheshimiwa was saying, we do not want to be a consuming nation, especially COVID taught us a lot. We decided, let's do local manufacturing. Instead of us going to China and getting bulbs in China, why don't we do local manufacturing here? And when you look at the local manufacturing, the Kenya Bureau of Standards policy says you can come with completely knocked down kits or semi-knocked down kits. So completely knocked down kits, you come up with different parts of a product, then you assemble it locally. That is in the policy of KEBS. So you can be able to be called a local manufacturer when you're in that space. So one of us came up with a bulb, and he started assembling that bulb somewhere in Ruiru. What the government did, KRA set an office there in his factory to count how many bulbs he's producing so that he can tax. Instead of getting a tax holiday for about even 6 months. Because this guy is trying to come up with innovative ways to, you know, to take care of the local appetite of bulbs and local manufacturing. Right. So instead of being empowered to do local manufacturing, the government is hitting us hard. Then they are also banning some things from us importing. They are imposing so many taxes. Look at the shoes industry. Do you know how many shoes are being consumed in this country? Do we have local manufacturers of shoes who can be able to meet the appetite of the consumption of shoes in this country? We had an issue with the shoe manufacturers. And what happened is that the government came up with policies, the East African Common Tariff. And it's only Kenya which signed the effects of it. And what happened is the importation shot from 1.2 million to 9 million. And most of those are our members. So we went to, first we went to Kenya Revenue Authority, we met there, we went also to Treasury as a board, and when we started in the government, can you imagine the Kenya KRA did not know it was affected, didn't know, they acted surprised that, from 1.2 to 9 million, no, we didn't know. He said, how can you not know? And you're the people who are sitting in that space. You're the people who are in that table. So we negotiated with the government, and the taxes came down to about 2 million. Now they want to ban down, importation of shoes. You cannot kill a sector, Sami, to build another sector. But you facilitate a sector to grow into manufacturing. So the people who are doing local importation of shoes, why can't they be empowered to do local manufacturing in progression? Because these sectors employ so many people, and you cannot kill one sector to build another sector. You complement it so that you can grow into now local manufacturing. But the government is not supporting that. So, and lastly but not least, when you're talking about protecting, there's something Mheshimiwa said, the policy of protecting the local traders. We have nationalities in the country, here in Nyamakima. It was even in one of your shows. We have people who are foreigners who have opened shop. They are doing the retail. And you know what happens, Sami? This person comes and registers as a manufacturer. When you look at the license, they are manufacturing. Right. But when you go to their shops, they are doing retails. So what these people do, I go to China, get a completely knocked down kit of a product, then it starts moving very fast in the country. He tells, this manufacturer comes and tells me, because he's my friend, let me come and see what's happening in Kenya. He comes, he surveys the market, he goes back to his country, he gets money from Exim Bank of China, then he's empowered, he comes here, somehow he gets licenses in this country, he gets a business permit, he comes and opens a shop next to me. So he's getting, the prices that he's getting from China is about a quarter or an eighth of what I can sell. So when he comes here, what I was selling at 200, he's selling it at 120, or he's selling it even at 80. So what policies are there in place to make sure that the local manufacturers are protected? There are not those policies. So you find that you are competing in a manner whereby foreigners are actually coming and taking our jobs, and that's why you're seeing what you're seeing.
Right, and actually the Cabinet Secretary for Trade said something yesterday that I want us to listen to. Watch.
Mwaka ujao tunapiga marufuku kuleta viatu kutoka nje. Ndio nyinyi watu wa Laikipia mkuwe mko mbele. Yule mtu ambaye hataki kuvaa viatu ya Laikipia si atabebe miguu mtupu jameni. Niliwaletea ile levi. Tunatosha ile wale watu wanaagiza bidhaa kama viatu kutoka nje. Tuanze kufanya mikakati, viatu kwanza mweke 50% na hakuna huruma.
Okay, that's the Cabinet Secretary for Trade, and not so long ago we had the President speaking about a similar conversation. That time he was talking about furniture and saying that to make a bed you just need some few items to do, and if you cannot buy a local one, then you can sleep on the floor until that time that you're ready to sleep on a local one. Honorable Wandeto, are these things properly structured, or it's speaking to the masses for the moment? Do you think there's something going on behind the scenes to, especially not to affect the supply, because you know what that can do? If you don't have the supply, you know what will happen to the prices and affordability, to, in a more logical way, promote local production while also not affecting the supply?
I think these are very good statements of intent, but we also now need to back them up with proper planning, because we need to assess, obviously, the capacity of the country. We need to incentivize local manufacturers. And, you know, Sam, this is not something unusual. Governments all over the world impose taxes to basically discourage importation of certain goods which they feel locally they have a competitive advantage to produce. And I think those two items that have been identified, the furniture and the footwear, are both things that you know, we can be able to produce. Some we slaughter millions of animals every year, so we've got quite some good amount of leather being produced in this country. A lot of that is exported, most of it even raw. And you know, shoes are not, it's not a very complex item. What maybe I think the minister wasn't talking about banning. I think he was just talking about, you know, lifting, because we also don't want to start saying...
You know, he said both things, yeah? He said banning, but also said...
Yeah, he talks about the tax, yeah. So, but I think the correct position should be that, you know, obviously the government should may impose higher taxes on imported shoes.
And that is what I'm asking.
And that's a very common thing.
Are leaders just speaking on the podium, or these are things that have been properly thought about with a proper implementation plan?
There is a proper implementation plan. Sam, you are aware that the government is in the process of working on what we are calling the agro-industrial processing parks. And a lot of those parks have been purposed, depending on where they are being built, have been purposed to, you know, to deal with certain aspects of manufacturing or of production. For example, the one being mooted for, you know, like Nyeri, that side, because we've got lots of leather coming from, you know, the northern frontier, you know, all the way down. That could lend itself very well.
But do you have the capacity to process that into shoes?
Yes, I mean, we set up the capacity. That's why we actually started with the, you know, with creating those parks. We are also going to be...
I'm talking about, so it begins by processing the leather.
Yes.
Then making the shoe.
Making the shoe.
We have capacity for both.
I do not know whether currently the total requirement for shoes, we have the capacity right now. But this country has very good business people. If they sniff an opportunity, if today I know that if I bring machinery to make shoes, I'll make money. By this time, that would change in a few months. So what I think, once the policy direction is clear, the investment will flow. Because that is the whole purpose of this tax incentive, is to say, since this is a sector we think we can be able to competitively compete in, why don't we incentivize both public and even private sector players to deal with it? Some will tell you, I mean, Karanja here will tell you that when it comes to furniture, you know, there is no magic. If people realize that there is money now in making beds and sofas, I mean, you'll even see the quality going up. You know, we've always known that the imported furniture looked, you know, of a higher quality. The local furniture maybe was of a lower quality. I can tell you the market will quickly correct itself. Soon, we are going to have world-class shoes being produced here in Kenya. Right now, we are lazy because it was easier to just import.
Okay. Let me just ask, is there anyone who is wearing a local shoe here?
No.
Okay, so let's take a break. We'll come back with more.
Some only Onyonka has answered. Not allow us.
No, mine is also not local.
He can't wear a button. He can't wear a button.
Okay, are you wearing a local shoe?
No. I'm not wearing it. I don't know where the shoe is made. I just bought a shoe.
So the answer is no.
But I'll check.
Sammy.
No, we'll come back. We'll take a short break here on, including the cost of living that you know where it's headed after the break.